When Coppi won his second and final Tour de France in 1952, observers agreed they'd witnessed not only one of the greatest races, but also one of the greatest performances of all times.
Is it possible to win the Giro d'Italia and the Tour de France in the same year? That is the hot topic we are answering here today on this edition of In the Saddle. Steve Schlanger with Christian Vande. This is the show where we cover all of the cycling news, making headlines, the ones that cause division online, cause bar fights, because if it doesn't cause a bar fight, is it worth talking about, Christian?
No, not at all.
Absolutely not. So, interesting concept, one that Chris Froome says, yes, it can be accomplished. Both races won in the same year. Directors, though, tend to think that it can't be done. Only 7 riders in history have accomplished the Giro Tour double, and it hasn't been done since 1998. Christian Vande Velde, is it possible to do the Giro Tour double in the same year?
Yeah, 21 years is a long time, but I'm going to go with Froome. I'm going to say that, yes, it is possible. I think it's irresponsible for me to say, no, it's not. What do you guys say about that?
Irresponsible? Why
Yeah.
would it be irresponsible?
Well, I mean, because you're going to say that for the rest of eternity, no one could ever do it again? That's ridiculous. So that's my, I mean, I think it more relies on priorities. The Giro not being one of them for most riders. And I think it really just becomes that guys like Froome, who won so many tours in a row, that's like, all right, I need a different agenda. I think I need to push the boundaries of what I could possibly do a little bit farther. And then he tries to go for it. And look, he did Tour de France, Vuelta, Giro in succession. So he did 3 in a row.
well,
Okay,
yeah, but
not
there was
in a
long
calendar.
time between the Vuelta and the Giro.
Okay, but still, he did do it. He did do 2 in 1 year. And other people have done. Alberto Contador has done 2 in 1 year as well. I know it's not the Giro Tour double, but
it's not the same thing, though. It's like when people talk about the calendar slam in tennis or in golf, winning the PGA Championship at the end of the year and then the Masters at the beginning of the following year. It's different because there's so much time in between. If it's such a big deal, such a big feather for a rider in their cap, why hasn't it been done since 1998?
I think it's really just circumstantial. I mean, I don't think there's that much of a discrepancy between the level of the Vuelta and the Giro. So if you could do it in the Tour, just like Froome did it, Tour of Vuelta, that is, there's no reason you can't do it in the Giro Tour. It's just circumstantial of people preparing correctly. And I think the first guy who could do that in the future is going to be Egan Bernal. And that maybe it could be in the next 6 years.
Why him?
Just because he's just insanely good. I mean, I don't think we've seen somebody like him come onto the radar in a long time. I mean, he's kind of like our Peter Sagan, who came on, who we're watching, and he's like, hey kids, we were watching. I remember my parents looking at me when we were watching, Walter Payton, Michael Jordan, things like that. Pay attention. We maybe never see something like this. I feel like we're watching a generational person again.
But he's good, as you say.
Yep.
There have been other good cyclists since 1998. There have been great cyclists.
Yeah.
Excellent. Some of the best we have ever seen, and they have tried and they have failed. So it's not just about talent. It's not just about being good. There's something else that's missing. What is it? Why hasn't it been done?
I mean, I think it's it's everything with the Giro. The Giro is crazy, right? It's in Italy. You never know what's going to happen. It's not great weather. The Italians are always so passionate about it, and the Vuelta is a little bit easier on the heels of the Tour, and I get that. So why hasn't that been done? I don't know. I mean, there's so many different reasons all behind it, but really the biggest thing is priorities. Like once you win the Tour de France, then you're free. Like the teams like Team Sky, Dave Briff.
But riders have made it a priority. Contador's made it a priority. Froome's made it a priority. Guys have made it a priority to try and do the Giro and the Tour, and they've built their seasons around trying to be good enough to win both.
Not many, but yes.
And they've come up empty.
I agree. I'm saying that I'm putting my eggs into Egan Bernal going forward, and I'm saying it's going to happen at some point in time. Someone's going to do it. Someone's going to have.
What's going to be the difference, though? What's going to be the difference in someone that's going to do it now or in the future to the ones who haven't done it in the last couple of decades?
You have to almost decide that this is going to be the only priority in the whole season. So you have to say, like, okay, I don't care if you're doing Pyrenees. I don't care if you're doing Tour Down Under. I don't care about all these other races. I just want you to do and just focus on these 2 Grand Tours. And that takes a lot for a team to say, okay, we're going to pretty much put you on the bench and not be exposed to any of the fans apart from these 2 big races. So that's the biggest thing, the priorities in the race. And again, like we were saying yesterday about this calendar just being so big and so long that you really have to take so much off the table to really go all in for these 2 races.
Guys specialize so much these days, all
Yeah.
right? It's a different game than it was back
but they
in
still,
the 90s, the 80s.
But they're still, okay, they're not doing 80, 100 races, but they're still doing 60 races a year. That's a lot.
But think about the science behind the sport now and how it's fine-tuned.
What, you going to get your stethoscope out or something? Or
you know what? Hey, if I got to get the stethoscope out, you're not going to be happy, let me tell you. Guys with their physios, with the sports scientists that teams employ, they have it dialed in terms of preparation, everything leading up to every race day. So you have guys specifically targeting the Giro, specifically targeting the Tour.
Yep.
And no matter what you do, if you have some that are splitting their ambitions between both of them, you're behind the curve going into each one.
Yeah, no, I get that. But when you have an uber talent like Chris Froome, and believe me, if Chris Froome thinks he could do it, he has really good knowledge that it can be done.
But he didn't do it. He didn't do it. He tried and he didn't do it.
But he was like going off. I mean, you look back at what he did. I mean, Chris Froome was insane. If you go back to 2016, he won the Tour, got second in the Vuelta. He won the Tour in 17, won the Vuelta, won the Giro.
Second place
third.
is last place. Second place
God,
is last place. We're talking about winning the Giro and winning the Tour. And here's the thing, okay? A lot of guys, the caliber of Chris Froome, Egan Bernal, guys like that, Nairo Quintana, okay? You can win the Giro, yes, okay? You can be good in the first part of the Tour as well, okay? But it's what happened to Froome last year. It just eventually catches up and you start to fade. And those guys that prepared for the Tour specifically in that third week, that's where the difference is made. And a guy like Froome and others who have the Giro in their legs just can't hang.
All right, are you done?
Oh no, I got plenty more. I'm creating an opening for you to try and respond to that.
No, I mean, it's going to happen. And I'm going to keep on saying I can't prove that's going to happen, but I know that and I think what you're going to with the science behind it, I think that actually plays into the real reason that it can happen. But again, it's priorities. If the priorities shift, if this is the only goal, just to do this Tour double, just kind of like beating the 4-minute mile, beating these kind of the marathon pace, all these kind of things, that's your only priority in your year, I think it 100% can be done. So if Chris Froome decides that he doesn't have to do any of these social engagements, he doesn't have to do any of the other races apart from the Giro and the Tour, I think it can 100% be done.
Well, you know what? My priority could be to win the Giro, Tour, and the Vuelta in the same year. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, all right? Just because you make it, a priority.
I think it'd be a lot easier.
Realistic chances, though. I mean, you know what? I was with you a couple years ago. I actually thought that it could be done when Contador was taking aim at it, and with Chris Froome, I thought, if anybody was going to do it, it was going to be one of these guys. And then you start to see how the races have changed so much over the years, just how brutal the Giro is. It's a great spectator visual to watch the Giro, okay? And then you see how difficult the Tour is. That's when I changed to the other side and said, you know what? I mean, you can come close, but you can't win them both.
No, it's hard, but I'm going to disagree with you on that. I think that the Giro is completely different for different reasons. I think the level of awareness in the Tour de France stresses you out in different reasons for how many helicopters and media press being pushed on you at all times. The Giro d'Italia with the Tifosi, the amount of fans, the cycling fans getting into it. It's a different animal. There's more climbing, crappier weather like we talked about before, but I think it is possible. But the priorities have to shift. You have to be given the runway, especially not doing the Vuelta and winning the Vuelta like Chris Froome did before, trying to winning the Tour de France afterwards.
No, my priority is wrapping this up right now by telling the folks that our expert Christian Vande Velde is just absolutely wrong because it can't be done. See you next time.
Ciao.